Hey everyone, this is Virginia with Handmade Envy. Thanks for stopping by my channel. I've been asked to share how I do my planner covers using the notebook cover molds with epoxy. Hope you enjoy. So start by choosing which glitters and alcohol inks or other mediums you'd like to use. I usually use 3 glitters minimum with 3 coordinating alcohol inks. I try to use at least 1 ultra fine, but in this case I didn't have any colors that were ultra fine in glitter, so I chose chunky ones. And I chose 2 pro alcohol inks. This yellow is from Holtz, the middle is from Copic, it's a C10, and the third one is a purple Holtz Pearl. I mixed 200 mLs, 100 each of part A and part B of epoxy, and I put them into 6 measuring cups. I only use 3 sticks because I try to coordinate with each color, so I save. So right here I'm going to speed it up a little bit. It's all the mixing. I try to coordinate the colors of the alcohol ink with the glitters, but I don't always want them to be matchy-matchy, so I will either do it a little darker or a little lighter. I always make sure that I use a little drops at a time because you don't want it to gunk up your epoxy, especially the glitter, because the glitter always is thicker when you add it to epoxy. The epoxy I used was Culture. I think it's a little thick, but for this project it worked great because you'll see as I'm adding it to the molds, I am able to keep them separated by color. I wanted to change the color of that last pink because it was a little too fuchsia to me, so I wanted to tone it down a little bit, and I did with another tint. Here I began to apply the solid epoxy wherever I want it in the mold. I just do it with a popsicle stick or a small stirrer, and I usually do lines, and I try to mimic it on the other side, but I try to flip it because one of them is going to be the back cover and one of them is going to be the front cover. So I usually try to alternate the colors that I use, and I also try to alternate when I'm using a solid versus a glitter. And I usually will go back and forth between the colors as well. So here I'm just applying glitters, making sure that even though I separated them a little bit, that I'm going back in with my popsicle stick and I'm just pushing it towards the second color that I'm adding it towards. That's the solid gray. It looks black, but it's a really dark gray. I think it might cure black. But that gray glitter down there in the corner is called Oakenshield, and it has grays in it, so it's beautiful. But I wanted to have something matchy, but you'll see that I don't like it to be tone on tone. So I added some more glitter here, and I just alternate the glitter colors. It's really super easy. Honestly, you just need to be creative and you just need to work with it. And if you drop a little here and there and it splatters or whatever, you can either wipe it up or you can just go with it. I usually will either wipe it up if it's too much, or I'll just get my little popsicle stick of that color that I'm actually pouring that goes and it went over a drop or something, and I'll just mix it in, and you can't really tell on the other side. Remember, whatever you're doing on the top side, you're not going to see that part. That part, when you take it out of the mold, it's going to look different. So I just basically worry about how I think it's going to look on the bottom. And then once I lay all my color down in whatever pattern that I want, then I'll go back in with those colors, with the extra mixture of those colors. And then you'll see, I just added more so that the mold gets folded up. Filled up. So with my popsicle sticks, I'm just making sure that my lines are the way I want them. And you have a certain amount of time to work with your epoxy. I actually sped this up about 15 minutes. You see right there, I did a drop and I just wiped it away with my finger. I actually prefer a longer working time, and so far I've tried 3 epoxies, and the epoxy that I like the most is Art Resin. From Art Resin. And then there's a counterculture that has their art resin as well, but that counterculture it's thick for me, and this is what I'm using in this one. And it works okay because I'm trying to keep the colors separate, but the work time was a little less than the work time with the art resin that I usually use. It's a little thinner. So I'm just going in and filling in the gaps with the different colors. Again, this is the solid pink. I did, when that solid pink, I was gonna add mica to it. I don't know if you noticed when I did the yellow, I was gonna add more of the Tim Holtz color alcohol ink to it, but I decided to put a little bit of mica in it just to give it a more of a pearl. And this color scheme, if you notice in the front, that's the kit that I used, the Wild and Free kit from Hobby Lobby. I used that as my color inspiration, and I just mixed as close as possible without going overboard. You have to be careful with black or dark colors because you don't want it to overpower, and because I have control of this epoxy, it's easier for me to keep the colors separated. But sometimes when your epoxy is too runny or too thin, it can blend into all the colors, and then you'll have a mesh of everything that you're putting down. I try not to do that, which is why I use a popsicle stick or a toothpick, and then I can control how much I'm putting down. It's better to put down a little and add to it than to put too much down and not be able to take away. They're all going to blend anyway, eventually, to some degree. You can also get your stick and make little designs in it. I don't really like to do that. I just like to let it do the work that it's supposed to do, or that it does on its own, and I'm happy with that. So I took the rest of the yellow that I had. That yellow is gorgeous. It has little stars in it, so it looks really, really different than it does right here on the screen, but it's so pretty. And I try not to make the colors too dark because I want them to be opaque so you can see through them and see part of the planner kit that I'm working with. Here's a little bit more of that gray glittery color. It's so pretty. I made a little chunk over there. You can see it's a little thicker, so I wanted to make that side a little thicker to mimic it a little bit more, but not too much. I want them to be the same, but I don't want them to be too matching. So I'm just going in so I'm not wasting any glitter, and whatever's left over, I'm going to grab a mold, you'll see in a little bit, and just use the rest of that glitter up or epoxy up, because epoxy is expensive and you want to be able to use it up as much as possible. This took at 120 ml and I had 80 ml left over. So you'll see that I'm going to use a little round mold. It's a coaster, a small round circle coaster. But I'm just adding in a little bit of yellow here just to make the lines more definitive. And then there you go. There's the mold. So I just scraped out what I wanted. Kind of looks like an egg yolk to me, but oh well. I don't know what it's going to look like on the other side, so I'm hoping it doesn't look like a fried egg. So then I just mixed in the rest of that black color, which is what I had a lot of left over. And I'm going to add in the rest of that yellow yolk. Oh brother, I hope that doesn't look like a egg. And then I'll just mix it in over there a little bit. And then I try to get a little bit more of the glitter that's left in there, of the gray glitter. That corner looked a little plain to me, so I just added a little spoonful of it. Popsicle stick of it. And that's basically it. So I'll go in with a toothpick and just fix my lines if I want. Spread it around a little bit. Thin it out. Move it. Make it flow. Still had a little bit of work time left over. And then I'm getting ready to torch it. I want to remove all the bubbles as much as possible. So I'll go over with it like torching every so often until I see all the bubbles are gone. And then after about 30 minutes or so, I'll do about 2 or 3 passes with the torch. Not too close because you don't want to scorch your epoxy. But I do it and it pops the bubbles. You can also use a heat gun or you can use a straw. That's it. If you have any questions, go ahead and hit me up here or send me a message. Thanks for watching.